Hello everybody, welcome to ChinFat. I've had a question from somebody about creating a portal on a doorway. Have the kind of that portal effect in After Effects where you have somebody is able to walk up and go approach a portal and go inside of a portal or something like that. In this instance, I have the person that asked, we have this door here that is, she wanted to become a portal inside of in this little scene here. So I'm going to kind of show that portal effect and how that's done. Some options for doing that sort of portal effect here. And whenever I do anything in After Effects, I usually like to start in Premiere and send it over so I can do the quick editing inside of Premiere down to the file that I need. So I start off here with my media, and I would say anytime you do any effect work, you typically want to edit it down to just the portion of the shot you're going to be doing, rather than have it on the entire footage. You want it just down to the. It makes things a lot simpler if you first edit it down to the portion of the shot that you need. So I'm going to eliminate the footage before up to this point here, do an edit, hit Q, which eliminates everything to the left, and then we're going to play through this. And the clip that was used ended up getting cut off like right about here. So it was just that portion of the clip right there that we're going to send over to After Effects. And I'm going to get rid of the sound. We don't need the sound. No, so we're going to create a portal effect on this door here. But now they've got a couple little issues here, because at one point we're going to 3D camera track this and put the portal right here onto the door. But we also have the problem of the issue of these guys walking in front of the door here as well. If we want to use this shot here, we can either cut it beforehand or we can do what's called rotoscoping. So we're going to show how to do that as well. So I'm going to right click on this clip and I'm going to replace with an After Effects composition. It will send that over to After Effects, and then we can work on the effect in After Effects. It'll ask where I want to save it. I'll find a location and put a name in and save it. So now that I've saved that, that's been sent over from Premiere to After Effects. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a now you can do some kind of things like random like fractal noise and things like that to create like a portal effect here. I like to use as many real elements as possible to create an effect. One idea that you could use here is using some fire to kind of do an outline of the door here. So a place that you can get those is you can go on to YouTube. There's also the Action Essentials pack that you can purchase online, that has the Action Essentials 2 pack that you can purchase online from videocopilot.net that has some pre-keyed fire here. If you just go to YouTube and type in pre-keyed fire, it'll bring open a bunch of them. And one that I really like is this one right here. And this one actually has a link to the full-on download here. Because if you download this fire from here, you'll have to do some sort of Luma key, because it's not pre-keyed off of YouTube, but it's pre-keyed down here. This one here, this is one that I found that actually has a pre-keyed file, which means all the black stuff here is keyed out, and it has an alpha channel that works in After Effects and or Premiere. So if I import that footage into After Effects, and I put this over this window here, you're going to see the fire is there, and then the black video signal is not. So all you're left with is this fire, and this would be a good one to create that flaming door out of. So I'm going to leave that in my timeline right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on this, and I'm going to pre-compose it and put it do its own composition. We're going to make the fiery portal that's its own composition, essentially. So pre-compose, we're going to move all attributes into the new composition and call this fire comp. So that's our fire composition right there. So there's a fire comp in here. Now if I double click on it, it opens it up and it just has that fire within that fire comp there. Now I want something to kind of be able to outline to create that door around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my main composition here. I'm going to select this file here and I'm going to duplicate it. Command D or Control D on a PC will duplicate it. I'm going to grab this bottom one, Command X or Control X to cut, go back to this fire comp here, and Command or Control V to paste it into here. And I've got it on top, so let's put this on the bottom here, the bottom layer. I'm going to just call this door freeze frame. And I'm going to move this to where the door is kind of close. Before these guys get in front of it here, I'm going to get it right there, as close to the door I can get the door to me as possible here. And now I'm going to right click on this, and we're going to go time, and we're going to freeze frame this. Freeze frame it. Now I'm going to hit S for scale. It brings up the scale, and I'm going to zoom this up and get that door kind of in this frame, maybe a little bit smaller so we have room for the flames here a little bit, right about there. And that's going to be my reference to create this fire right here. So it's the same kind of proportions as the door. All right, so I'm going to grab the fire here, and I'm going to bring it down to the bottom of the door, and we're going to make this flame that's kind of burning in and out of the door here. So let's give this a try here. I'm going to scale this to fit the bottom of the door here, so we can kind of maybe even squeeze it a little bit so those are a little bit longer on the bottom right there. Now I'm going to grab the fire and bring another fire, bring it down in, and we're going to start create a little bit of a border going around this door here. So I'm going to hit W to rotate. We're going to rotate that. S for scale and scale this down a little bit. And we're going to put this on the side of the door here. V for my arrow tool and move that over to the door right there. And let's make this, stretch this out, make it fit kind of the whole door there. Maybe make it a little so it's not reaching in so far. Maybe right about there. I'm going to call this one bottom fire. Call this one right fire. And I can even just duplicate this, Command D, duplicate, and now we can reverse it over to this side over here, and then shape it how I want. And see, and I kind of don't, and one thing is I don't like it looks like it's mirroring each side there. So what we could do is we could offset the in and out point of this fire here and grab this top clip here. Oh, and let's rename this one. Hit enter and go left fire. Now I'm going to offset the timing on this so it doesn't look like it's mirrored. Move that over. I'm just skimming this to the right and giving it a different in and out point, sliding it over, and now it's not mirrored. Looks a little more randomized. And I'm going to make that a little bit more thin here, like that, so leaving a little bit more room on the door. Then I'm going to duplicate the bottom, and we'll call this top fire. Reverse that, and then move it up here. And choke that in a little bit. Now, if I want to kind of intensify this a little bit more, and once again, I'm going to retime this one so it doesn't mirror the bottom, so it's a little bit different from the bottom. And now we've got kind of this fire effect around the door. Now, if we want to intensify that, we can duplicate some of these. So I can go to like the bottom fire, and I do Command D to duplicate. We could, if you wanted to, you could even make one kind of go reverse and make it look like it's got a little bit of flare coming off the door as well, like that. So let's give that a try. And I'm going to do that each one of these. I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'll come back. I'm going to duplicate each one of these and reverse them so it's got fire coming out of the door as well as inside the doorway. And then each one of these here, for left to left, and all these ones that have duplicates, I'm going to basically offset the timing on that just a little bit so it doesn't look like it's mirrored on the opposite side here. So let me go to all these number 2 ones and offset the timing on those a little bit. Change the timing. And now the fire will appear different. And then if you did want even like more of this effect, we could duplicate these on top of each other as well. Each one of these, we could duplicate these 2 right here and intensify it more, and then change the timing on these ones as well. So it just like adds more fuel to the fire. And then I'm going to duplicate these other ones as well. And I'm going to have 4 layers for each side of the door. So I'll have 4 layers for the left side, 2 going in, 2 going out, offset all the timing on these things, and then I will be right back and show you the next step. Okay, so I'm back, and now I've duplicated these. So now it's got like basically 4 layers on each side of the door here. And we have this kind of fiery effect here. And you can adjust this and make it look a little bit different however you want to. But now it looks way more randomized there. So now I can go down to the bottom and I can delete that door freeze frame there because I don't need it anymore because I've created the size and shape of the door. So we'll delete that. Go back to our main, and now all we're left with is this big fiery door effect. So go back to the main image here, and now I've got that pre-comp on here. And actually, let's name this timeline. I'm going to call this up here like final effect or something. So I know this is the final comp here. So I'm going to go up to that that composition, call it final effect, and that's now I know that's the final composition there. And I've got the final effect and then the fire composition up there as well. So actually, I can even get rid of this fire comp down here because it is now saved up here as well in my project window. So I can delete it out of the timeline, and here it is right here if I need it. Double click on it. There it is with all those layers. But now we're going to do a 3D camera track to get this to get that fire to lock to this door. So I'm going to select the clip here. And we're going to go to the little double arrow here, and we're going to go to motion tracking, arrange for motion tracking. With that file selected, I'm going to go up and do track camera. And it will start analyzing the clip. If I go to my effect controls here, you can see, you'll see it start up here. It's still initializing. So in a second, that will start going. There it goes. And as it analyzes, it'll analyze the clip, and then it's going to create a 3D camera space based on the movement of this clip. After it analyzes, it'll solve the camera, which is solving it based on on the 3D camera space that we're going to be using here. And now I've got these tracking markers all over that it's tracked, and it's going to create a 3D camera space. I'm going to go up to the door because I want to put this on the door plane here. So I need to find at least 3 pixels that are on the door, and I'm lucky it tracked 3 pixels exactly on the door here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose those 3 pixels because that's where I want this because that's the plane that is the plane right there within the 3D camera space that I want that fire to be placed on. It's right on this door. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to hold down Command or Control on a PC, and I'm going to select this one while I'm holding down Command or Control, and I'm going to select that one and select that one. And now it puts a target. The target is actually, it thinks the plane is facing this way because it's this kind of straight line going down. So the target is actually facing to the left here rather than toward us, and we can fix that. I'm going to right click on this target. I'm going to say Create Solid and Camera. That created the 3D camera space, and it puts a solid line right on the door there. Right on the door. That puts this solid right on the door there. Now what we can do is we need to make that kind of aim it toward us so it's looking at us instead of directly to the left. So I'm going to go, here's the solid it created, and you'll see that this thing is locked to the door now. It's locked that thing to the door, and even when they cross in front of it, it's used this 3D camera space that it's created by all those tracking markers to know where to put that. Even though this guy crosses in front, we don't have it track the door perfectly, even when it's not in sight. So I'm going to go down to the track solid, and we're going to face that toward us. I'm going to go to Transform. I'm going to go to the Y-axis rotation, because this is Y-axis moving up and down here. And the X-axis is pointing straight toward us, and the Z-axis, which is depth, is pointing to the right now. I was wrong, it's not pointing to the left, it's pointing to the right. So we're going to rotate it around the Y-axis and make this square face toward us. And now you can see the depth here. This is the Z-axis, that blue line. That's the X-axis, that's Y-axis. So Y is up and down, left, X is left and right, and Z is depth, is closer to you or further away from you. So I'm going to get that so it's kind of pointing at me as directly as the door is, and that door is looking at me pretty directly, so I'm going to move that so that axis right there, that Z-axis is pointing straight at me, or maybe a little bit to the left, so kind of guess where that's supposed to be, right about there. All right, so now you'll notice this thing tracks to the door, locks to the door pretty well. It locks that square right on the door. So I'm going to go to my project. I'm going to grab my fire comp. I've got this track solid selected. It's very important that you have the solid selected. You grab the fire comp, you drag it down, you hold down Option or Alt, and now holding down Option and Alt, I'm going to let go of my mouse here, but holding on the Option or Alt. So I let go, still holding Option, and now I can let go of Option, and it has replaced the door or that solid with this fire. So I can zoom up a little bit here. I can grab the X-axis and slide that over. And we can hit S for scale, and we're going to scale that up until it matches the size of the door here. Right about there. Shift question mark to zoom out. By the way, when you're zooming in, if you hold down Alt or Option and use your mouse to scroll, it'll scroll. Let's say we want to zoom up to this thing right here, that branch. Then I'm holding down Option, and I zoom, and it will zoom right up to that. And then if you use your middle click on your mouse, middle click and hold, it's a hand and it moves it. Don't grab it and move it or move the whole, it'll move your whole composition. Middle click and grab, and it moves around the screen, and you can see where you want it exactly. Shift question mark is the shortcut to zoom out to the full frame like this. So now we got our fire in there. We play back, and you can see we got the fire burning, and it sticks to the door. We have this guy walk in front. Now, one thing we could do as well is, like, let's say when this portal turns on, so we're going to have this maybe fade in, like the door will be sitting there, and then as they walk toward it, we're going to have this kind of fade in, like the portal like is created there or something like that as they're walking toward it. But let's have this go somewhere as well. We're going to bring it in some footage here. Got some footage of a beach in Florida here. They're going to send this guy to Florida. So we're going to go to the fire comp, and we're going to put this beach in Florida behind everything. There it is. And now we want it to just crop out. I'm going to make this a little smaller here. Just scale it down to where, so we get as much of that beach in there as possible. Right to there maybe. A little bit bigger. Right there. Okay, and now I'm going to mask this here. We're going to, with the beach Florida selected, I'm going to hit the pen tool, and we're going to click here, here, and draw a mask and cut out the rest of it. So it kind of fits in that door there. There we go. You could feather the mask. You can hit F for feather, and it brings the mask feather, and you can drag this and soften the edges just to soften those edges a little bit so they're not so hard edged. So you can see what's happening. Let me turn off all these layers here, and then you'll see how it softens the edge of the mask there. Okay, so go to final effect, and there it is. There's the portal going to the beach there. So now that portal's sitting there. Let's go play this through, render it. So let's play through that and see how that's looking. Looking pretty good so far. Okay, so now we're going to do some stuff to make the fire. If you want to change kind of the look of the portal here, there's some things we can do. Like, I'm going to go to my fire comp here, and I want to have the effects applied to all the fire and not the background here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-comp all my fire files here. So I'm going to select them, hold down select the bottom one, hold down Shift and select the top one. I'm going to right click and we're going to pre-comp all these so it flattens them into one file. Move all the attributes to the composition, hit OK. I can rename this if I want, just like full fire. Now that's the full fire with just everything combined together. And if I ever need to edit the individual fire flames, I can do this. I can just double click on it and there they are, pre-comped into this composition. Now I can go and rearrange things if I need to or whatever I needed to do. All right, but I want to apply some effects to the fire here. So we're going to arrange for effects. See in the fire comp there, and I'm going to go to effects. I'm going to type in, first of all, I want to change the color of this. So I'm going to go to the tint. I'm going to search tint in my effects. I'm going to grab the tint and I'm going to drag it and drop it on the fire here. And what that does is it remaps everything so everything's black and white. You can change the colors here if you want to, but I like just turning it black and white. You can start from scratch, and then if you use a Lumetri color panel, you can change it to whatever color you want to. So I'm going to drop it right below it there. So I've got the Lumetri color panel, and now I can go under basic correction, and I can change the temperature and tint to get almost any color I want out of that flame. If I want to turn this to kind of a bluish flame, greenish, I mean, you could just, with the tint and temperature sliders, you can basically get any combination of color that you want to. You can even change the saturation down here as well and get it to the right level of saturation. So let's do like a light blue. Maybe right about there, and then mess with the saturation, get it right where we want it. See how that looks? Let's go to Final Effect and see how that looks there. Like that look, we're going to kind of soften it up, make it have more of a glow to it so it looks a little bit more pulsating or something. Go back to the fire comp, and we're going to add some more effects here. Let's try a glow effect. Let's grab the glow here, drop it on the fire, and mess around with the settings here. Now we can, we've got the glow threshold. We can kind of have this. And we could even kind of have that kind of pulsating as well if we want to. Put a randomizer on that. But let's go glow radius. Have it kind of, oh, there we go. Now we're getting some kind of cool glow coming off of it. And then let's go do glow intensity and see what we get. So right about there maybe looks good. Let's see what we get on the final effect, how that looks there. That's looking good. Cool, I'm digging that. And then maybe even like search Gaussian blur. Let's put a little bit of Gaussian blur and soften that up a little bit. Right about there, and let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm digging that. So you can anything that you do in this composition right here, it'll put it on the door. So you can do any sort of effect and mess around with it and see what you get. Try different things and see what you get. Now here, when we want this to, like, we want it to see the door at first, and then we want to see the portal open up. So we could animate this. We could do, we could have one of two things. We could have it just fade in. You can have it grow, like if you want to make it look like it's stretching and growing or something like that. You could do that as well. So let's do this. So let's do, see if we're going to do opacity. I'm going to go, I hit T for opacity and do a keyframe and turn on the keyframing, put a keyframe there, and then maybe from right there to there. And we're going to have this keyframe be 0 opacity, and then it'll go from 0 to 100 opacity, and then it fades in. So there's the fade in. If we want something that looks a little bit more like a portal opening up, maybe we could do like a, let's do a scale change here. So I'm going to hit S for scale. We're going to unlock the scale here. And we're going to animate this. Let's have it like happen right about here. We're going to turn on a keyframe for scale, and then an ending frame. Right here, add a new keyframe for right there. Going to jump to the previous keyframe, jump over to the previous keyframe, and let's make this go flat like that. So we'll just put that on 0. There we go. There we go. And something like that. I don't know. You can mess with some sort of animation. We can make this happen quicker too. Let's see. I like that timing right there, from there to there. There. I like that. I like that kind of going. And to make it look a little bit more natural as well, we could right-click on this keyframe and say ease into it. So it gradually kind of comes to a stop. Very subtle. Kind of pops up in there. And we could even put some motion blur on this. So let's turn on our motion blur for the entire sequence and add a motion blur. You're not seeing this is under toggle switches and modes here. It goes between switches and modes, and we're in switches now. I'm going to go and turn on motion blurring. It's turned on for the entire sequence, but now we're going to turn it on for this specific layer. Gives a little bit of motion blur to it, very subtle. Make that a little more gradual. There we go. Okay, now the last thing we need to do is get it so this guy is in front of the door because it looks like he's behind because this is composited on top. So we're going to use what's called rotobrushing to do that. It's rotoscoping kind of made easy. Here I'm going to go to the bottom layer. We're going to call this the main layer. And I'm going to duplicate this, Command D or Control D to duplicate, put it on top. So now basically we have this layer on top here, on top of the main composition that we got. And we're going to call this one rotoscope. We're going to rotoscope, which means we're going to cut out this layer and put him on top there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this back to before he goes into the fire, where the fire is going to be reaching out to about right there. And I'm going to grab this and drag it over and make a new endpoint right there. So this layer turns on right before he gets to the fire, like right there. We're going to rotoscope as little as we have to. We only have to rotoscope when he crosses in front of the door. And I'm going to see how much of the door gets covered here. Looks like mostly covered by him, a little bit by him. So we probably want to do rotoscope, maybe this guy's torso, maybe his right leg, and then all of this guy right here. So we're going to get to the beginning of the shot here, right there. Now to use the rotor brush tool, you have to use it on the individual layer. You can't do it on the composition, you have to do it on the individual layer. So I'm going to double click on this rotoscope file here. It'll open it up the layer, and then you go up to the rotor brush here and you click on rotor brush. Click on that, then we're going to move down, and it's got this little brush thing where we can start drawing in what we want it to take to leave in the shot. So if I let go of that, it creates an outline. It actually did a pretty good job of detecting this. Now, the way the rotor brush works a little bit is a couple of shortcuts you need to know. Is first of all, change the size of the rotor brush. So you hold down the Command key or the Control key, and at the same time you hold down your left key on your mouse, your regular click. You hold it down. So I'm holding down the Command key or Control key and the left click at the same time, and then I move my mouse left and right, and it changes the size. So if you need to get it really small to get these little fine-tuned details, or you want to make it a little bit bigger and draw in more, that you can do. That's how you change your brush size. I'm going to hold down Option and zoom up here. I'm going to middle click and drag this up, and I'm going to paint in the extra stuff that I need. I need his outfit right there. And I got a lot of the ground there. So the other tool that we need here is hold down. If you hold down Option, look what it does. It changes it to minus instead of plus. So minus, I'm going to make this a little smaller first of all. Hold down Command and left click and hold down my left click and move it to the left to get a little smaller. And I'm going to hold down Option to minus. I'm going to tell it to get rid of the spline right there. And it's still not wanting to grab the foot, so let's add this foot in. There's his other foot. So okay, now we're, and this is where it'll do a much better animation the more you get this drawn in. The better animation it will do when it animates this spline, this moving mask. It'll be an animated mask essentially that moves with them, and it does a really good job of detecting most of the time. So I'm going to minus that. I'm going to add that little edge of his clothing there. Minus to get rid of that. We're getting there. I'm going to keep doing this until I get him fully painted in. The portions of this image I want it to cut out and put on top here. So I'm going to get that portion, and I'm going to keep doing this and fine tuning until I get this until I get a pretty good outline on this guy. And then once I get that guy and this guy put in, I'm going to come back and then we'll show you the next step. Okay, so I've done that outline on this guy here, and now it's time for the animation. Now up here, this is really important. This portion of the clip right here is the portion from here to here is the portion. This clip right from here to here is the portion of the clip that it's going to be rendering. And down here, this is the render timeline down here. And it shows what has been rendered already. I turned off the render because it was automatically rendering. And what will happen is if this doesn't start rendering, you just grab the playhead and you move it to the end of the timeline here. I'm going to keep hitting page down to go one frame at a time and get it right to the end of the timeline. See, that's one pass, so now it won't be able to do it. So I'm going to get it right on the end, page up. Now it's on the end, and if you just move the playhead, it'll keep rendering here. Let's get it to the end. Right there, that's the end, and the green line has fully rendered there. It's rendered from here to here, and now we can go in and look at this here and see if we have some trouble spots. And we do have a little trouble spot here where it grabbed a hold of the door. So basically, this is what it's doing here. Is it's see, it's cut off the picture there because it's rotoscoped that in there. So here's the layer that it cut out basically and put on top. And it's not perfect, so we got, which is normal, but it did a really good job, and it saves a lot of time rather than have to go in and manually rotoscope all this stuff. So I'm going to go in and we're going to fine tune some stuff. I'm going to go back to right before he crosses the door and start looking for trouble spots. And so far, no trouble spots. I'm just looking at the door here and seeing if there's any trouble spots here where he's covering the door. So far, no trouble. Oh, right there. There's a spot. Look at right here where this reaches out and grabs and magnetizes onto the edge of the door here. So I'm doing page up and page down to go through frame by frame. Right there. So all I have to do now is I can go through and just touch these things up. I'm going to hold down Option, delete that door right there. So the line wraps back around him. And now let's page down. And it's trying to do it again. So it just keeps trying to do it. So I'm going to keep getting rid of this stuff. And see, I can keep doing several passes on this and just do one trouble spot at a time here. But this is so much faster than having to manually touch up rotoscoping. Looking pretty good. Right there, get rid of that. See, and he's almost past him. This is just going to take a few seconds. Oops. There we go. And sometimes with this touch-up, you kind of have to go through frame by frame, unfortunately. But like I said, this is a ton easier than manually rotoscoping normally is. See, right there, it starts growing on the door again. So I'm going to keep doing that. And then I notice a trouble spot down here as well. And then when he comes over on the corner right there. So I'm going to go back. Once I get one of these done, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this one. And then there was some trouble down there. And that was really it. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to come back and show you my completed rotoscoping here. Okay, I'm back. I'm just going to show a little bit of my little last affected area here, because when he walks over the door, you see this little sliver of white going through here, so we can just kind of quickly do a couple little manual touch-ups on that. So I'm going to hold down Command or Control, left click, and hold them both down and make this a lot smaller, about right there. And now I'm going to hold down Option or Alt and draw in here to minus out that little section in here. Draw right down the white there, see if I can get all that white. There we go. Now let's go up one and just do this little spot here. Very subtle. There we go. Page up and just get these individual frames in here. I'm just brushing those out one frame at a time here. And that should be good. Now they're blocking the door there. Okay. So here's my whole rotospline here. And it did a really good job even getting his feet and everything. But you only need it for what crosses over that doorway, because that's what we composited in there. So once we get it and that's looking pretty good, I'm going to hit freeze and it will freeze that render there, because it keeps trying to re-render. If it loses its render, it'll try to re-render it again. Sometimes it can be kind of randomized and different each time. So I've got exactly where I want to. I'm going to hit freeze and it will freeze those frames. And now it's actually it's flattening the actual rotospline here. Okay, that's frozen, and you can unfreeze it if you need to and do it and touch up some stuff as well. But then when you're done, you freeze it, and then you go back to composition. And now look at this. He's in front of the door. So what we basically have now is that layer there, that rotospline layer on top of the door. So it looks like he's walking. So it looks like he's in front of the door, blocking the view of the portal there. And the last thing you can do on the rotospline here is you can go to the rotospline mat here and you can change the feather a little bit. If you want to soften it up, if it's looking a little too hard edged, it automatically ends like a 5 pixel feather. But if you grab that and drag it up, it'll eventually start softening the edge. You'll see the edges softening. Let's go extreme here, kind of show you what's happening there. Yeah, you can see it's now starting to soften away too much. But yeah, just like usually 5 frames or 5 pixels is pretty good. If you need a little softer, you can go 10 and just soften up the edge a little bit there. And you can even choke the mat. You can shift the edge, which will suck in the spline a little bit, or expand it, which expands it out the other direction. So if we go to shift edge, we can take it in maybe like 2 pixels or something like that, just to eat into the edge there. Let's go to -2 pixels here, -3, and just get rid of that. And that sucks it in there a little bit. And now it's looking a little bit, I was seeing kind of a little white edge of the door there, and now I'm not seeing it anymore. And there we go. So let's play that back. And that's looking pretty good there. Cool, and that's pretty much it there. I mean, now, of course, we can do some color grading and whatever we can do. Command S or Control S to save our changes. Now we can go back to Premiere, and here's our effect, and we'll see it's updated now inside of Premiere. So now, I mean, if you need to do some color grading in here, you can color grade. Just give it a look there. There we go. Yeah, I just added one of these looks. You can leave the After Effects composition in here if you wish to, or you can go back to After Effects because it'll render a little slowly in Premiere now if we do that, but you could export this out. You could go to Composition, add a media encoder queue, and export out like an MOV file or something like that, like a QuickTime ProRes file or something like that, then go back to Premiere and import it and use that as your editing clip. Because in here, if we've got this, once we've got this After Effects file in here, if we hit Enter or Return, it will render the clip. And now we can play back and see our effect that we've created there. Cool. Well, that's a portal effect there. If you have any questions, please post them, and thanks for watching.